Despite the complete lack of me having anything to show for it, I've actually been working on the climbing gloves project since my last video about it, and I now have 4 or 5 failed attempts to show you. Turns out I was doing a couple of very basic things wrong, and I'm going to show you guys exactly how I was fucking everything up. Because the process of building things is the process of engineering, and the process of engineering is the process of failing quite a few times before you get something to work. This model right here was sort of my intention. This is what I was trying to build. It's very simple. I've just got this sheet of wood with a layer of rubber around it, a 3D printed handle here, and a 3D printed mount here. This thing right here, which I did not build in CAD, I downloaded this file, is a small vacuum pump. And you put a tube right here, and then I was going to lead it down into this hole. It would suck all the air out of the chamber and create a vacuum, which would stick it to the wall. And then I left a little indent here for a switch, which I bought. And I was going to wire the switch so that it connected to the vacuum pump. And you would be able to have your thumb turn the switch on and off while your fingers grip the handle here. That was what I wanted to build, and it was sort of what I was working towards with each iteration. I have since discovered that this is a very misguided design. Just one more thing before I explain why the vacuum pump didn't make any sense. The reason that I wanted to do it was because then I could have the battery here, the pump here, and the switch here, and everything would be on the handle. I wouldn't have to wear any kind of backpack, which, if you look at my first couple of videos on this, is what everyone that has done something like this has worn. They've had the vacuum cleaners on their back connected to the handles. I wanted to have it just be the 2 gloves. I thought that would be a nice sort of way to streamline it a little bit and add my own flair. Unfortunately, what happened was, whenever I stuck one of these down, and it could be one that stuck to the wall perfectly, and then hooked up the pump here, and the switch, and everything, and had it all ready to work, nothing would happen. There would be no suction at all. And what I eventually learned was going on was, sure, it was pumping the air out and it should be creating a vacuum, but in a real life situation like this, you're getting a little bit of leakage, and that wasn't a problem with the full-on vacuum cleaner. It was a problem with this very tiny vacuum pump because the airflow was not great enough to compensate for these tiny leaks. So basically, I need more airflow. I need to use an actual vacuum cleaner or else a very intense vacuum pump, and I don't think I can afford to get a couple vacuum pumps. Plus, they'd be too big to fit on the glove. So that's the problem. These are all the failed climbing gloves, from the first one a couple months ago to the last couple today. I am going to talk about each one in turn and tell you exactly where I went wrong. Alright, glove number 1. This was never intended to be a final handle. And I was really just testing out this foam, and it's a good thing I did because it didn't work at all. This foam is from a CNC machine, and it's designed to be airtight, and that's why I decided to use it, because it needs to be airtight. That's the point. And then I duct taped around the edges because there was a lot of leakage. This one had a little bit of suction when I put a vacuum against this hole and put it against the wall, but not nearly enough. So I moved on to the second one, where I used a rubber that could go all the way around the corners without, me having a gap in the foam, because I just bent it all the way around. And this was also foam that was advertised as airtight because it's for sealing doors. This was actually a handle that I intended on having be final. It's from a trowel, which I bought at the hardware store. And this was where I started deciding to use a vacuum pump instead of a vacuum cleaner. This one taught me that I needed, again, just a better seal, or at least that's what I thought it had taught me. So I made this one, and this is a yoga mat of rubber just cut out and glued around the edge, so it's one piece. There is no leak around here because it is one seamless piece of rubber, and it doesn't even have a handle because I never got that far. This thing, when put against the wall, didn't even stick on at all. It just fell immediately and there was no suction. And that was when I got really confused, so I made basically the same thing, except I put more foam underneath here so there's a bump, which you can kind of see, and then I screwed it down. Now this one also did not work in any way. Which was surprising because I figured as you pushed against the wall, it was so thick and there was so much give that it would have to be pushed all the way around the wall. So I got really confused and sat there for like half an hour and wondered what was going on with this one. until I realized that the problem was that the wood that I was using wasn't flat. Which is the stupidest possible problem I could have been having with this. So, I just quickly cut out this piece of wood that I checked beforehand and it's flat. This is a flat piece of wood. And then I put this rubber and I put it up against the wall and it stuck there perfectly and I couldn't pull it off to save my life. But that was with the vacuum cleaner. Unfortunately, that's all the time that I have to work on this project before I leave for 3 months to go volunteer in Africa. But when I get back, I will have finished moving, I will have no job, so I will be prepared to make my projects bigger and better than ever. So if you're actually someone that is following this channel closely enough that you watched the end of this video and are interested, just know it's all coming back in 3 months, right after Christmas. I'm gonna climb walls, I'm gonna make exoskeletons, I'm gonna 3D print things, it's gonna be great. See you then.